extremely politically polarized times. So it becomes all the more important to understand the philosophy of the political divide that we are experiencing around us. It can be quite an interesting experience to understand why we make certain political choices, why we reject others. Three books of the recent times become quite significant in that sense. These are The Social Animal by David Brooke, The Righteous Mind by Jonathan Haidt, and Moral Tribes by Joshua Green. Although these three books attempt to achieve the same objective, they try to understand the moral philosophy behind the politics and in some ways religion, but they do it in slightly different ways. Jonathan Haidt's approach is through evolutionary psychology. David Brooks' approach is through economics and game theory. And Joshua Green, he tries to work it through psychology and philosophy. Nevertheless, all these books try to understand the same point, try to understand moral philosophy and especially the group philosophy, how we behave as groups and what are the reasons why we behave in that manner. In many of the democratic societies, you would always find there are two kind of divides. In some countries, you call them conservatives and liberals. Sometimes you call them left wing and right wing. Sometimes you use terms such as progressives for liberals. So terms may vary, but the idea pretty much remains the same. Also, we must not get confused with the party politics, with the philosophy of the matter. Party politics may change, the parties may evolve over time, but the fundamental philosophy, the very idea, the ground on which a particular philosophy is planted, that remains the same. And we have to understand that in order to understand the political philosophy. I'm going to use the term conservatives and liberals for the right wing and left wing, which is what you use in the American politics. So let's try to understand these two groups and why they behave the way they do. I'm going to begin with Thomas Sowell's interpretation of left wing, right wing, or liberals and conservatives. According to him, liberals come with a romantic idea of life, and conservatives, on the other hand, they have slightly tragic view of life. What does that mean? Well, it means that liberals expect world to be perfect. They think there can be perfect solutions, there can be perfect institutions, and world can be organized in that manner and should be organized in that manner. So there are definite solutions to whatever problems we face politically. Conservative approach, on the other hand, is that of trade-offs. Conservatives believe there cannot be perfect answers to anything, but only trade-offs. So if you do something, you will have to pay the price in some other way. So there is always going to be trade-off, there's always going to be some kind of sacrifice. Another perspective on liberals and conservatives has been added by Jordan Peterson, Canadian author, He says it's about chaos and order. So he sees liberals as a part of chaos, which means they are pursuing freedom, and conservatives as part of order, philosophically speaking, which means they're trying to maintain the order, trying to create the order in which a society can function. Obviously, we need a balance of these two approaches, but as you would already know, it's very hard to achieve a perfect balance. So, you'll always find some kind of tilt in a society towards liberalism or conservatism. But just going back to the previous idea of tragic worldview versus the romantic worldview, you would notice how conservatives behave. They work on individual responsibilities, they think they have to take their own responsibility to fix their lives. Liberals, on the other hand, they insist that governments should interfere and fix the problems. So things like universal health care, um, universal basic income, those sort of issues arise. Conservatives, on the other hand, they think you get what you deserve, so it should be according to your own efforts, your own achievements, and you can't give equal portions to everybody. So there arise the differences. And as I said, you need balance. You can't have just one idea, but there arise the conflicts. And how do we work on those conflicts? We need a constant dialogue between the two sides. We need the conservatives to remind the liberals that how important certain values are, that we cannot just abandon them. At the same time, we need liberals to remind the conservatives that we need to change in some ways. It can't all be the same. How I like to describe this whole process is something like this. Imagine there's a tree, and imagine the wind is blowing, and then the leaves on that tree are rustling because of the wind. That sound, that rustling, that is human progress. That tree is conservative philosophy. That wind is liberal philosophy. But we need both. We need some grounding of values. We need something to hold on to. That is the conservatives. And we need certain change, the winds of change, something to look forward to progress. So, which is why Jordan Peterson suggests that liberals are more suited in positions like entrepreneurs, artists, people who change the world, and conservatives are more suited in positions where order is required, where structure is required, such as administration, management. And only when the two sides can come together, we can think of any progress. Now, there are some interesting questions that often arise when it comes to the politics of conservatives and liberals. One of them is why there are so many liberal intellectuals and very few conservative intellectuals all over the world. In fact, this is one of the questions Ramchandra Guha, the historian, Indian historian, has asked repeatedly, and he has asked this question in Indian context, but I suppose the question remains valid everywhere. Why most of the intellectuals are left wing or liberals? And I have wondered about this question too until I came across Roger Scruton's book, How to Be a Conservative. His journey has been from a left wing student to a right wing intellectual as he grew up, something Peter Hitchens has also experienced. Many intellectuals, in fact, you will find they were uh, liberals or communists during their college years, and eventually they turned out to be um, right wingers or conservatives. So maybe age has something to do with that. We'll get to that question later on. But the first question, why most of the intellectuals they are liberals? And Sir Roger Scruton's answer is something like this. Being an intellectual requires you get outside of the society. You have to think outside of the box. So you maybe momentarily or maybe for in the long terms you will have to stop participating in the everyday life, and you have to take a step back and observe the society. And as you do that, you don't stay or you don't remain the part of that society anymore, which means you stop being a conservative or a traditional person. So therefore it is highly likely that you won't be a conservative uh, when you're going to be an intellectual. At the same time, an intellectual is a critic, is looking for explanations, reasons, uh, while observing or critically analyzing the society. And you can all only do that when you are trying to make progress or trying to make a change. If you're happy with the way things are, it's unlikely that you're going to be an intellectual. So that's the explanation that I found. There's another question that often arises, which is you will something you will find in political debates, that why right wing is not really compassionate about human suffering and left wing is. So it seems from social media, from political debates, that the left or liberals they really care about human suffering all over the world, and conservatives don't. The reason is quite simple. Conservatives care about their group. They have very specific goals. They have very specific structural predisposition, and more importantly, their values and their morality, as Jonathan Haidt points out in his book The Righteous Mind, is different from liberals. Liberals value compassion very highly. On the other hand, um, conservatives, in their morality, compassion is there, but so is group loyalty and law and order. So, for example, when it comes to immigration, sure, liberals do care about immigrants and they want to absorb those immigrants in their country, but conservatives have their concerns because they care about their own country, and they have certain concerns regarding law and order and the values which are important to them. And the earlier question, that why people change their political affiliation, and a lot of young people are liberals and progressive, and a lot of people from the older generation are conservative. It's not very hard to see why, because when you're young, you are in college, you want to fix the things around you, you want to make this world a beautiful place, you are romantic in many ways. So, this is where change or the liberal worldview helps you, or at least it gives you a dream, it gives you an ambition. But as you grow old, you realize that it's very hard to achieve those goals. You know you are going to make certain compromises, you know there are going to be trade offs. So, as you go through the experience of life, it is quite likely that you will move towards conservative ideas. Now, you may remain liberal, but what I'm trying to say is you at least you travel from far left, that is the communist ideology, towards the center or towards the right wing. The opposite may happen too. As you experience life, as you learn more things in life, you may shift from extreme of the right wing towards center, but generally you will see a lot of young students, a lot of activists. They are generally liberals, left wing, and as they age, as they experience more things in life, they move towards the conservative ideas. It has happened with a lot of people. You'll find a lot of celebrities, intellectuals, writers, and it happens as right now we are experiencing life, and a lot of people are changing their affiliation. That said, these two fundamental distinctions between the two fundamental ideologies remain, and they are not going to go away. They are going to stay here. The parties may change, the new ideologies may arrive, but these two distinctions, these two ideas, they will remain, and they are very important ideas for the human progress. And as I said before, we can only make progress if we maintain a healthy balance between these two ideas. And that can only happen if we engage in a dialogue with the other side. And I hope you will do that too. Thank you.